still have a lot on the agenda, so we're going to move to our legislative update quickly, and then we'll take a quick break after that.
All right, well, that's a hard act to follow. And what I would say about this last legislative session is big danger, little damage. So that's good news for us. I think we had overall a really positive legislative session for the city, and I want to start out by thanking probably everybody in this room had some input at some point on some bill, because God knows there were hundreds and hundreds of them that went through many different revisions. So thank you to all of you for your time and quick response when you got those urgent calls from me or from Megan saying, we need an answer and we needed it a half hour ago and it's 3 hours worth of work. So without all of you helping out, that damage could have been really pretty significant. We're still in the process of going back and looking at just the fiscal notes that we submitted. Some of these bills had $1 million plus impacts to us. And through successful communication and negotiation, making the legislators understand that perhaps what they were wanting to do was going to have this impact that wasn't their intention, we were able to get those bills, for the most part, amended. In a couple of cases, they just had to die. Sometimes that's the best way to fix things, is just to kill it in the legislative world. But we also had great success with our two City of Reno bills that we put forth. The first one was actually something that many of you will remember was discussed in this very forum, and that was Senate Bill 4, and it had to do with the provisions that protect public employees when they come into contact with communicable diseases in our course of duty. And prior to the session, the statutes gave protections to essentially public safety first responders. And what we were able to do is go in and get those protections expanded to all public employees. So the protections that are there that let any one of us, if we, in the course of our work, come into contact with bodily fluids that we have reason to believe may have exposed us to a communicable disease, something like hepatitis, tuberculosis, that could have some serious long-term impacts on us. We all now have the ability to go and petition a court, if necessary, to get a blood draw so that we can, as quickly as we need to, get a result, and if in fact we have been exposed, can immediately take preventative action. So we all have that all across the state. School teachers have it now, social workers, our attorneys, folks in the courts. And in addition to that, we also were able to change the process that you get that court order so that it happens much more quickly. So that we don't have to actually go knock on a judge's door at night. We can do things electronically, telephonically, to get those court orders quickly, so that we can take those preventative actions as quickly as possible. And in a best case scenario, if there has been an exposure, let you make a good choice about whether you take some prophylactic drugs that can help your body reject those communicable diseases. And so, we'll knock on wood that we don't ever need it, but when we need it, we have it. And so that was a big success for us, and that's something that came out of this discussions right here is this update. And so my ask to all of you over this interim is be thinking about things. Be thinking about how you interact with the public, how we better serve our citizens. If there are legislative things that are in your way, send those to me, send those to Megan, so that we can start dialoguing with our delegation and preparing for next session. The other bill that we had success with was AB 9, and that was our city charter bill. And I think many of you will remember that the council created a citizen committee that did a full examination of our city charter from the first article to the last article, and made some recommendations on things that could be changed to allow us to be a more efficient, modern, and effective local government. And while the bill did go through some amendments, and some of the things that we had asked for were taken out, we really, overall, I think got about 90% of what we were seeking with that bill. One thing that I would point out, the bill will now require us actually to have a permanent charter committee. And that charter committee will be made up of citizens who are appointed by our council and by members of our legislative delegation. And so we will every year now, prior to the session, have that committee meet, go through our charter, and make recommendations for any legislation that might be necessary. So you'll see that happening, and I think we'll really see benefits from that. You know, the last time we've done a comprehensive look at our charter was 1996, and so we went in with a big, thick bill of, you know, a 49-section bill, and when legislators see that, they're like, really? What are you trying to do? So if we can just, on a regular basis, keep that charter updated and be proactive in making changes that we need to be the most efficient local government that we can, that will really be to our benefit. So where do we go from here? Megan and I are in the process of doing final analysis of the legislation that passed. A lot of it that passed in the last 48 hours. So we're still reading through final versions as enrolled. The governor still has a few more days to sign bills or veto bills. So we're waiting to see what will happen with that. And we expect to have that work pretty much wrapped up by the end of this week. We'll give our final report to the council next week. And all of the department directors will get a report from us of all the bills that pass and any actions that need to be taken. So if there are ordinances that need to be updated, if there's land use planning that needs to be reviewed, if we need to amend our internal processes or procedures so that we make sure that we're in compliance with these new state laws, we'll have all of those tools. So expect that through your department heads, you'll be getting information about that. There were some changes that were made to the open meeting law. So we'll be working with the city attorney's office and get that information out to everyone, just so that we make sure that we're continuing to comply with open meeting law. And I guess the other thing that I would mention, this really isn't a city issue, but it does affect our community at large, and that's Assembly Bill 46. You've probably read a lot about it in the newspaper. That's the bill that the Washoe County School District brought forward, seeking an additional 2 revenue sources for their capital maintenance. Much like us, they've struggled in the downturn to have adequate revenues to maintain their facilities. And actually, Washoe County does not have access to a revenue stream that Clark County and some other counties in the state had. So they went to the legislature. We're hoping to get the bill passed and the tax enacted down there. They weren't successful in doing that, but what they were successful in doing is getting enabling legislation that will allow the county commission to enact those taxes. And so they have a big lift ahead of them to get the county commission to, in fact, decide whether or not they think it's appropriate for those additional taxes to be levied in our community. And I just, you know, I'm not advocating for or against it, but it is something that you're going to continue to hear a lot about is AB 46. And I know that, you know, we all have a vested interest in the education system in our community, and so that's going to be an important issue that you'll be hearing and reading a lot about. So with that, I would take any questions, try and answer any questions about specific legislation or the process. Julie.
Yes. Cadence, can you bring up the legislation that passed by the Nevada League of Cities who took it on that is a very positive.
Yes, thank you for that reminder, Julie. In addition to the bills that we put in through the city, we also had the ability to work with the League of Cities, which we're a member of, for Senate Bill 37. And that was something that also came forward from our employees, particularly Jeff. And it had to do with increasing the penalties for theft of public property. As you all know, we've had some presentations here about the epidemic of theft, of backflow preventers and other things like that. And what the bill did was put in some additional, raise the penalties for theft of public property, but it also put in a mandatory community service requirement. And we were able to successfully convince the legislature that there's a tie between if someone is damaging property that belongs to the community, an appropriate penalty will be serviced back to the community. And so it used to be that the judges could, at their discretion, assigned community service, and now that is mandatory. So as ever, secret witness, 334 cops, 911, if you or your neighbors see these acts taking place, really important to report them so that we can hopefully get the monies back from the perpetrators, and they'll give some service to the community in exchange for the damage.
Is there any word on the government vetoing AB 46?
The governor signed it yesterday. Yeah, he signed AB 46 yesterday. So, and I think there was a little bit of conversation about it at the county commission meeting yesterday. I think everybody's kind of trying to take a deep breath, let things settle from the session, and the school board is going to kind of regroup and put together their plan for how they're going to try to persuade this community, to persuade our county commissioners that these additional revenues are necessary, and it's a big task for them. So we'll see what, I mean, potentially we could be looking at a special election. They only have until January to take the action, so it's not something that's open-ended. They're going to have to do something fairly quickly. So it wouldn't surprise me if we may see a special election this fall on specific to this issue. Okay, all of you for your help.
Well, and I'd like to thank Cadence and Megan for all the work they did. I think they were truly leaders among the local government representatives down there. I know there were times where Cadence literally had to go toe-to-toe with some legislators and came out unscathed. So all the feedback that I've gotten has been very positive. So thank you for all the work that you guys did. So let's take just a quick 5-minute break if we could, so we can get back to